So, here's the sitch on the ATL Boxscore today. We get into Masters Week with who is the favorite to win the green jacket on Sunday. We talk all about that. And when will we see Tiger Woods win another green jacket? Because folks, I would give anything to see that, but that probably wouldn't be enough. Then we have Ned Kaish on the show to talk about the national championship that happened in Minneapolis on Monday. This is the ATL Boxscore podcast from Augusta. You're listening to Pro Style Wednesday and Atlanta's newest sports podcast, the ATL Boxscore. With starting a new podcast, people ask me all the time, Alex, where do you record your show at? Do you do it at your house? No, I don't do it at my house because of just a lot of different logistical factors. The place that I do it at is actually a place called Spaces, Midtown East. And Spaces is a co-working center where I get my show recorded and I get other work done. Co-working has been one of these new phenomenons in the private business sector that has popped up recently. And Spaces also has another brand called Regis, which is more of a professional brand. Spaces is more for creators like myself. But to tell you more about these special brands in the business world is Mr. Steve Choi.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate those kind words. We absolutely love having you and ATL Boxscore as part of our space. It's always great when we see you doing your work. But absolutely, Spaces and the Regis concept, we are both workplace providers here in the Atlanta area, but all around the world. We have over 250 Spaces locations worldwide, plus over 1,500 Regis locations. And what we're really here to do is just provide flexible options for any type of professional, whether you're an independent professional, creative, or if you're a large or small business. So we have several different types of options from small to large and memberships, part-time, full-time. So definitely come on out and check us out. Go ahead and look at the link on Alex's site and ask for Steve Choi. And if you ever come into one of our locations, let us know that Alex sent you or ATL Boxscore, and we'll go ahead and set you up with a free 5-day test drive.
Yeah, you can't beat that 5-day test drive. In those 5 days, you will know if Spaces or Regis is the right brand for you. And Spaces is all over the place. They're a little bit more limited, but they're in the main areas of the city. The one we are is right in the heart of Midtown, near the Fox Theater. There's one at the Battery. There's going to be one opening up North Point Mall there. And there's also a location in Colony Square. So they are all over the metro area. At just about any major business building in the Atlanta area has a Regis in it. So just Google them. But Spaces and Regis and Steve Choi in particular is your place to do your business. Hello, friends. This is Jim Nance. Welcome back to the 85th edition of the Masters here in Butler Cabin. No, I'm just playing with you guys. We're not even in Augusta. honestly. Yeah, no. But want to thank you guys. Welcome back to the ATL Boxscore podcast here on a Pro Style Wednesday, or you might be listening to it on a Thursday or Friday. But this is our midweek show. I have to. We didn't put out a show, or recapping the weekend show. That didn't happen because I was holding off on the national championship and getting that wrapped up. So you're probably just back from spring break, or you're still in that spring break mode. I know I was for a couple of days. So well, welcome back if you are back from spring break, and or if you're listening to us on your afternoon commute and you're just about to hit the wall and traffic on 485, 75, or 285 is just driving you crazy. Well, you are in the right place, because hopefully we can keep your sanity for you, because this is our Pro Style Wednesday show, and I know I did that impression of Jim Nance. I don't know if it was a great one or anything like that. I'll let you guys decide. But with that being said, I feel like the position that Jim Nance is right now is pretty awesome. I mean, it's kind of like your dream scenario, and this is one of the reasons why you would love to get into sports, is because it's like you can go for Monday in Minneapolis and call the national championship to the college basketball game, turn around, get a flight back here to Atlanta, go to Augusta the next day, and get to spend the weekend in Augusta National in Butler Cabin, where he probably sees all the action. So right now, I envy Jim Nance, and Jim Nance has a pretty awesome job, because at the same time, even though he's a CBS broadcaster and the prime time, because it's not a prime time slot for golf, just because golf's played during the day, and usually you're not going to get a lot of eyeballs on what's going on. I know I will be watching, because a lot of people at work, but at the same time, they do this weird kind of where CBS Sports and ESPN, like the one day out of the year where they both all work together to cover this one event, and I think that's pretty cool. I mean, just because they need so many voices, so many commentators. Oh, and speaking of voices too, this is the tournament where you get that one guy, and I don't know their names, but you get like the South African accents, the Australian accents, the British accents, like Jason Day on 15. He just hit it too far. Oh, this is terrible. I'm screwing up. Just give me a minute with the accent. I can't just drop it like that anymore. But yeah, he'd be like just a little bit offside. He just didn't want to. He just tried to tap it in and didn't see where the green was going, and the ball just ended up. So hopefully he can get at least a par 4. So there you go. Maybe the terminology isn't that great, but hey, we're just all having fun here today here at the ATL Boxscore, and I'm just looking forward to just the sights, sounds, and like images you get from Augusta National, because it looks so beautiful down there. And yes, spring has finally sprung here in the South, and for living in the South, honestly, spring right now just feels normal. It feels like how it's supposed to be. Like, winter here feels so abnormal in some respects. It's cool when it's Christmas time, but when it's not Christmas time and it's cold and everything like that, like people that live down here like me for a long time, just not used to that. So it since spring is finally here, it finally feels normal. The downside to that, and it didn't used to bother me when I was in my 20s, and I loved springtime when I was in my 20s because it was finally warm weather. And it seems like Old Man Winter has finally packed up. He's gone. He'll be back for next year. But it didn't, like, I love springtime because the allergies didn't bother me. It caught up to me now that I'm in my 30s. And I'm just like, I need that Claritin every day. Like, it's a drug to me. I mean, I need that Claritin shot every morning. So I'm pill popping those Claritins. But yeah. So we're about to get into next we're about to get into some Masters talk, and we'll catch you up on the Braves because Braves had an impressive time down in Colorado. Then we're going to have Ned Kaish on the show to talk about the national championship, breaking that all down. But I just want to give a shout out to you guys. If this is the first time you've listened to this podcast, you like that we're having fun here. We try to hang out here. We try to make this environment fun and everything like that, because I know you might be annoyed by sports talk radio. I can understand that. You might be annoyed by just political talk. Well, we don't talk anything political here. It's just a fun place where you guys can just hang out on your evening drive or wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you do with podcasts. I usually listen to them on the go, but we're going to need your help, especially if you liked the intro of the show or the beginning of the show, because I feel like I'm coming on strong here, which I like, which some days I'm like, oh, gosh, everyone's losing, and I have to talk about a bunch of losers, but that's not the case right now. The Braves are winning. It's the Masters tournament. It's always refreshing to know that pads are popping and footballs are flying around the country, especially in Georgia right now, with college football being back in spring practice. Trevor Lawrence, oh my gosh, he dominated that spring game. I mean, I didn't see the whole thing, but he pretty much dominated because I had other things going on this weekend. And I don't really want to reanalyze what a spring game looks like or recap it. Watch the replay of it unless I really need to dive into film. But anyways, I'm going on with a tangent. But if you like what you've listened to, if you like what you heard so far, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. This is the ATL Boxscore podcast. This is what you stumbled onto. And we are not here at Augusta, unfortunately. We are actually in Midtown Atlanta at Spaces Midtown, so be sure to check them out. Put in the advertisement at the beginning of the show. You get a 15% discount if you use promo code Alex for a 12-month deal, so check that out when you tour Spaces, and Spaces is awesome. They're just awesome here. So with that being said, like, subscribe, comment, and right now we are going to get into some Masters talk, and on the tail end of that, talk about these Atlanta Braves. Man, that Masters music is the gift that keeps on giving. I would play it in this segment, but at the same time, we got Mr. Steve Choi joining us for this segment. How you doing, Steve? Taking a little personal day, but you're still willing to join us on the phone. I appreciate it.
It's a little R&R, I guess you can call it.
R&R, yeah.
Nothing like some midweek time off, buddy.
Exactly. A sick day without being sick, you know what I mean?
It's like the hump day vacation.
And in case, I always forget this, and in case you don't know who my name is, I'm Alex Berger.
Oh, nice to meet you, Alex.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, buddy. I always forget to do that for some reason. I always forget to, I guess I'm too focused. What's that?
They say because you're humble. Because being humble doesn't mean thinking less of yourself, just thinking of yourself less.
Yes. That's
a Confucius thing.
Yes. If I didn't burn
But anyways,
if I didn't burn a bridge with a certain boss I had, I think I should put you guys in contact.
oh, nice.
So anyways,
So what's up?
So yeah, what's up in sports? So it's the Masters this week, obviously, and obviously by like
The Masters. Yeah. I heard the opening music. It was awesome, buddy.
Oh, thank you, buddy. I wish I could play it in this segment, but it's kind of like
I kind of just want to. They should sell that as a sleep tool. Like if you just want to go to sleep, put on your alarm clock, call it the master setting.
Also, I mentioned the last time too. I also like the different color commentators, or the different commentators you're gonna hear this week, because it's like you have a mix of Australian to like British to and there's just one guy. New Zealand, yeah. So it's like that old English accent mixed in a different.
All the English accents.
Yeah, you're gonna hear all of them today. So
South African.
There's just one guy though. I forget his name, and on Friday's show, if I remember this, I'll bring it up.
Okay.
But the dude, man, you just love hearing that guy talk, especially when he's in that hushed tones. Like he was just a little bit offside out of the boundary there.
Nice.
But man, he has to hit this just right out of the bunker to get onto the green.
Oh yeah, it's the Irish guy, isn't it?
It doesn't sound Irish to me. It kind of sounds like either South African or
Australian.
Australian. I would be surprised if he's Irish. But speaking of Irish, I guess this is good segue into what we were going to talk about. Rory McIlroy is apparently like he's the next Tiger Woods, so to speak. I mean, he's had a lot of like. He's been hyped up in his career. He's still somewhat of a young golfer.
Sure.
But at the same time, like this is the one tournament that eludes him. Because right now he's third in the world, coming to like the world standings, and so he's the favorite right now to win the Masters tournament. But I mean, if you look back, I think it was in 2010, like the man just like imploded. I mean, he was I think actually it was 2011. He was the like favorite to win like the whole thing. And the guy just on Sunday imploded because I mean, he was leading the whole time. It was just one bad shot that led to another. And you've seen Phil Nicklaus do the same thing too. I mean, honestly, like the favorite really doesn't win this tournament. It's the guy that I feel like survives wins this tournament.
Gotcha.
Just from watching it, because it's like nothing's guaranteed going into Sunday.
Yeah.
Even though it's
Do you remember I mean, it's always a great tournament because there's always somebody that becomes like a star here.
Right. That you never expected, kind of like Bubba Watson.
Bubba Watson was one that I was going to mention. And he hit that crazy, insane shot to put him in position to win.
Yeah. And then he made up that story about his son.
Oh, that was made up?
That I heard it was from the grapevine. I mean, this is I couldn't pull this off on radio, so I'm just saying this on podcast. I mean, it's like, and I'm the type of person that it's like I should be rooting hard for Bubba Watson.
Yeah, because he's a local guy, right?
He's a Georgia. I mean, he's not a local guy. I mean, he's from Florida, but he played at Georgia.
Okay. That's what I meant. Yeah. I knew he had some sort of Georgia roots.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, also another guy too from the United States, Dustin Johnson, is a guy that
He's a favorite, huh?
he's one of the favorites in this, and I think he's a guy like a couple of years ago that hurt his back and he couldn't play for like a week. And it's like it sucks
Really?
because it's like this is like the tournament. Oh, I hear Loki in the background.
Shit, what? So yeah, no, I mean that's interesting, man.
Yeah. Pulling out all my golf knowledge. I know, like, yeah, this was the weekend that my grandfather was just like watching golf. Like, I mean, granted, like
Oh wow.
when he was retired, I mean,
Yeah.
he was addicted to cable television,
Right.
and so it was either news, golf, or some sort of sporting thing. So I know that
Yeah.
my grandfather would be tuning in this weekend, and yeah, liking to see. I think he would love Rory McIlroy if he was still around. But
Yeah.
But anyways, with that, I want to talk about someone from the Bay,
Yeah.
or at least went to school in the Bay in your old stomping grounds.
Yeah.
I feel like if you grew up in the '90s, if
Yeah.
you grew up watching sports in the '90s, you are always, at least for me, because this guy always seemed like a great guy. And granted, I didn't follow golf that much, but then it's like once he ran into a tree, all these women fell out, and you found out all these character flaws that Tiger Woods was.
Right.
But it's kind of like,
Right.
for me, just me personally, like, I want to see him win again. I want to see him get back to. I don't think he's ever going to get back to the Tiger he was, but I would like to see him winning some big tournaments. And this is one of them, because this is where he made his career and everything like that. And I hated to see those years when he couldn't play because of back problems.
Yeah. Tiger Woods reminds me of, not quite, but I think it's like Serena Williams is like Tiger Woods, or maybe Roger Federer is probably better since he's a man, but it's sort of like you're just watching him to win majors now.
Right,
Like you
right.
don't care if he wins like other tournaments or how well he's playing. Like every major that he's in, that he's got a shot in, you're like glued just to see how he's doing, because you're wanting to see if he can go ahead and break the record.
You're right.
You know?
You just want to see him
Yeah.
win tournaments. You don't want to see him like win a Grand Slam.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. You want to see him win the majors, though. Like I'm thinking. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really an avid golf viewer at all, so it's not like I would be watching golf on the weekends regardless. But when Masters, U.S. Open, British Open, the Players, all that stuff, whenever those major tournaments come on, I won't watch it. But if I know that like Tiger's like in the hunt, it's kind of like, oh, well, what's going on?
Right. Yeah, I mean, right now he's ranked. He's ranked 13th in the world.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel like that's a decent spot, especially coming into Masters week right now. But at the same time, I feel like, because I'm not that big into golf. I mean, this is the only tournament where I will watch as much of it as I can. But like something like the British Open or the U.S. Open, it just doesn't do it for me because it's at like a different location. I think.
Well, that's yeah. I mean, the Masters is a whole different ball game.
Right. I found out this morning doing my research, it's a invite only type of tournament. So
it's like Wimbledon for the tennis.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
It's like all this, all this pomp and circumstance takes place around it.
Right. And I think, too, just being a Georgian for so long, it's like this, like, it's just an event that I watch.
Yeah.
Just because
Can I
it
tell
holds.
you?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's the first golf tournament I've ever watched, and first Masters I ever watched was Tiger's first Masters.
You mean when he
And
was
that
like
was
a kid and won it all?
Yeah, when he was a kid. Yeah, when he was a kid, and he just became pro or whatever, and he won it. And he not only did he win it, he was killing it. Like, what was he, like, up like 13 strokes or whatever? But he was like, it was just phenomenal that weekend. There was just nothing but Tiger Woods, and it was just a spectacle to see.
I remember 2005. My family was glued to the TV. I mean, we didn't watch like all Sunday or anything like that, but that last hole on
like
18.
Oh, yeah.
When he sinks that putt, like, my family was glued to the TV.
So did your family like Tiger Woods?
My family loved Tiger Woods.
Nice. That's awesome, man.
My grandfather said one time that it's like, this is back before, like, he ran that car into a tree. But he was just like, he was just like, he's the greatest ever in golf. He's a guy that I haven't seen. I mean, he's always in shape. He always shows up. He's like, I don't
His
see any
mental game is on point.
Right. I don't see anything stopping him.
Yeah, and for a moment there was nothing that going to stop him except for that tree.
That's so true, though.
It really is. It really is. Unfortunately, because for a minute there, it was game over. It was Tiger was going to break all the records, and he's going to be like the greatest golfer to ever exist.
Right. I mean, I can't wait. Like, I just hope that in the next couple of years, before he gives it up, I'm not
officially retires.
Yeah. I'm not thinking that it's like. I mean, obviously with golf, like, I don't know, like, Arnold Palmer was playing up until his like 60s or maybe into his 70s.
Yeah,
Who knows?
Yeah. I just read an article about that.
Oh, really?
You know, like who was it? There was another golfer that was competing for a Masters in his 60s. Like he came close. Tom Watson.
Tom Watson. Yep, Tom Watson's been around for a long, long time.
So, you know, like now it's today and just everything in general, just with sports. Like, you got Tom Brady, who is older than he should, better than he should be at this age, and you got LeBron James, who's still doing things that people his age wasn't doing back in the day, and Serena Williams and Roger Federer. So, like, I think it's a possibility if he takes good care of himself and whatnot, he can continue playing for a while.
But still, it makes me wonder in this day and age in golf and everything, how much wear and tear that's put on your body. I mean,
well, sure.
I mean, I get it's not a contact sport and everything like that, but at the same time, to achieve that so fast, that makes me wonder what kind of stress and trying to stay into that shape too.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, like, how long. I mean, especially being on that, like, plateau or something like that.
Right.
I could see a thing where
I don't know. I guess we'll soon find out.
Yeah, I could see a thing where Tiger Woods is just like, I'll play in certain tournaments, but
not every tournament.
But I'm not trying to be competitive here.
Right. I'm not trying to get ranked number one at the end of the year.
Right. I could see. Yeah, I could see him, like, holding something like that a couple of years down the road.
Really, and I know you don't really keep up with tennis as much, but that's what Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal, who both respectively own the most major championships of all time. That's kind of what they're doing. Like, they're limiting their schedule so that way they can go ahead and play the big tournaments and make an impact. But they also have to play a certain level, a certain amount in order to get the advantages of, being ranked high enough to where they don't have to play a huge seed at the very beginning,
Right. Yeah. I think that's how Tiger's going to go out, honestly. Let's just play.
Should be fun.
Yeah,
Should be
let's just play a selective matches and and we'll kind of just go from there. I see that. I mean, I see that possibility now with Tiger Woods coming out, because it's like the thing about like Ernie Els or Tom Watson that you just talked about. Like those guys were never the faces of golf.
No, I mean they've always were like big in their day, but
right.
They weren't like the draw that brought people to the tournaments, right?
Right.
It wasn't like Arnold Palmer or Jack and guys like that.
Honestly, I think that's how Arnold Palmer went out too. That he just started playing selected tournaments. So. But on the swing side of things, the Braves are 7-4, and they're in second place in the NL East.
And who would have thought that when they got swept by Philly that first series?
I had a feeling, Steve, that honestly, I'm just like, you just get them out of the Philly series.
Yeah.
And let's just see how good they can. You're going to see how good they can be, just because they're a young team.
Essentially, they went 6-1 since the Philly series, which is pretty awesome.
Right. Essentially, yeah. Just lose. I mean, they swept the Cubs. They could possibly sweep the Rockies today.
Nice.
And let me just check the schedule just to make sure. To look at their upcoming games, but
then I guess they lost one to the Marlins.
Right. This weekend's going to be a little bit tough test. They have to.
Who they got?
They have to play the Mets.
And
the Mets are kind of the wild card in this division right now.
Yeah.
They're kind of like Washington.
A lot of talent.
I mean, I guess like kind of like the Braves, decent talent. They're just behind the Braves.
Big name pitchers though, right?
Right.
And whatever his name.
And that's pretty much what the Mets have had the past couple of years, but yeah, hopefully. I mean, Ronald Acuna, oh my gosh, just destroying it in that ballpark.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is because
how about Brian McCann, man? He's bringing some lift to the team.
Yeah. But I was gonna say that playing actually out in Denver with that thin air actually helps the ball travel faster, and you got a guy like Ronald Acuna who's just smacking it at the plate. Like, I probably shouldn't have said that, but it just killing it. I mean,
awesome.
Just hitting bombs out there. So
yeah, well, we'll see. Again, it's still so early in the season, but it's it's always better to start a season. What'd you say, 7-4 versus 4-7? So
it's better. Yeah, it's better to start a season where you have some sort of momentum, even though it doesn't really matter going into the postseason, than having a where you're losing and you're questioning guys and your ball and your clubhouse is.
Yeah. Where now everybody's kind of like.
It's like we kind of just don't trust in each other.
Yeah, turning on each other. So, also too, speaking of clubhouse, I think I just love the cohesion of the Braves right now. Yeah. I
mean, you have Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, like guys that will hang out with each other on a regular. Like I've seen their Insta, and so stuff like that's always obviously that's going to go far.
They probably go to the shooting range together too.
You think they go to the shooting range? In the batting cage?
The reason why I say that is because I don't know if you heard a couple of days ago while the team was on the road, Nick Markakis' home got broken into.
Wow.
And they stole like $20,000 worth of cash.
Dang.
And then they also stole a bunch of like guns. He had like some assault rifles and stuff like that in there. So yeah, buddy.
I've seen Nick Markakis talk at a Braves fan thing, and the dude seems like the most laid back guy.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of seems like Colin Kaepernick before Kaepernick got into the kneeling stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he just seems very... And I'm just surprised. It's like, dude, you have assault rifles?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, whoa, okay.
I guess he's ready for the next revolution.
I guess so.
I knew
one Brave that's not going out.
I knew a dude like that in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And he was into weapons.
Mm-hmm.
An older gentleman too.
Okay.
And someone asked him in high school, he was like, "So how many weapons do you own?" And he said, "Son, I'll just put it this way. A lot of my friends tell me that they're coming to my place when the next revolution happens." So
another thing that I would also say, that I might say back to that gentleman would be like, I know whose house to stay away from when there's a fire. You think about that, though. That's kind of dangerous, like, for your first responders who, if you have a fire and there's, like, a lot of ammunition in somebody's, house, that stuff gets ignited and starts all of a sudden
right,
flying.
A lot of explosions and stuff.
Yeah, so, anyway.
Yeah.
Hey.
So make sure you have your firearms in a secure place.
Yeah, make sure you put them in the safe or something.
Yeah, without any ammunition in them.
Right.
Hey, who knew today we'd be giving out like safety tips on gun control? Yeah.
We're doing good, man.
We're doing good.
That's why more people should tune in, because it's not just about sports. It's about everything under the sun.
We talk about life, and this is what other sports talk radio stuff. Like, this is what sports talk radio does, anyway. So
yeah,
we're here to talk about life.
Good times.
Like, if you use promo code Alex at Spaces or Regis for a 12-month plan, you'll be saving some money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, with that, I want to thank you, Steve, for coming on and just talking about Masters and the Braves in this segment. And right now we're going to have Ned Kaish come on the show next. Yeah, just before we bring Ned on, just wanted to let you know there are some things in the conversation that kind of just date themselves, but we address it at the end of the podcast. And also, too, if you enjoyed this conversation that me and Steve had about the Masters, about Braves, put that in the comment section. Tell us what you feel about those things, the Masters, and what's going on with the Braves. Also, to like, subscribe, and comment. And the ATL Boxscore podcast is found where all good podcasts are found, because we are on the basics, iTunes, Google Play. Pretty much, you either have a Apple or Android phone nowadays, so you can definitely find that on either of those devices. So thanks for checking us out. And here is my conversation with Ned Kaish. Now we want to bring on to the conversation here at the ATL Boxscore, Mr. Ned Kaish, our college basketball guy. And Ned, that must have been a late night for you last night.
It was. I was up till about 12:31, just watching all the post game stuff, checking out the press conferences. But it was a fantastic game. I know a lot of people were throwing some shade at these two teams being in the national championship, but you can't ask for a whole lot more out of a national championship game, going to overtime, clutch shots late. It was just an absolutely heck of a national championship game, and probably the two best teams at this point of the season ended up playing.
Right, and it was also too a game of where you had both schools that hadn't been to a championship. I know Virginia's always had good teams back in the 80s and just recently too, but it's like they've never won any championships.
Yeah, they had Ralph Sampson, who was a 3-time college player of the year, and they went to a couple Final Fours, 2 or 3, but never won a Final Four game. Obviously, never won a national championship. And then they really hadn't had much going for them as a program until Tony Bennett showed up, 8-9 years ago, and they've just slowly climbed. A couple Sweet 16s, couple Elite Eights. But finally, this group turned the corner, and they kind of had their big three with Hunter, Jerome, and Guy, which we just kind of look back at the history of the tournament. A lot of champions have kind of a big three that really propels them to become the national champs.
Right. What did you think about Virginia Tech? Because it seemed like once they went into overtime that they were just expecting, or I don't know if conditioning wise, they were ready to play an overtime game with Virginia, and it was obvious that Virginia was prepared, was conditioned to play into overtime, because it just seemed like Texas Tech just got sloppy there at the end.
Yeah, Virginia was up 10, with about 5 minutes to go, kind of similar to the Auburn game, and Texas Tech just clawed back. And watching it, Virginia really only played about 6 guys the whole game. I think they had 8 total get on the floor. But if you look down at the breakdown, 6 guys played 25 or more minutes for them. So you kind of wondered, were they going to get tired? Could they withstand the run and then get their own run to try to get back into it? Texas Tech just kind of plays almost a football style of defense, just in your face, physical, not letting you get comfortable. They played 8-9 guys. Their 2 leading scorers were 2 guys off the bench for Texas Tech. So, that's where you thought maybe Texas Tech was going to have the advantage in overtime. And they went up by 3. But Virginia went on a little 5-0 run. And then that kind of controversial call again, which hopefully won't be what Virginia's remembered for. But, right now, the ball got tipped out of bounds, looked like it went off the Virginia player, and they showed it just touched the pinky of the Texas Tech player. And from there, Virginia really took control, and it was perfect from the foul line in overtime.
Right. And like, you thought going into regulation that Texas Tech was going to win this game, that somehow it just kind of slipped away from Virginia. And they even on the CBS broadcast, they even showed Lubbock, Texas, but unfortunately it just didn't happen. It just didn't go their way once they went into overtime, because I feel like with that game, that's what changed the momentum.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny with this Virginia team. They've been down the whole time, and but they're always just in control. And if people remember, last year they were down 4 or 5 points to Louisville with 12 seconds left, and then they came back and won that game. And then they're down 4 with 7 seconds left against Auburn, and they're down 2 with 6 seconds left versus Purdue. It's just a team that was really resilient. And they talked a lot about what they learned losing to UMBC last year and how they grew as a group. And, it kind of felt like the whole time you were watching them, it was almost like, you're really going to have to kill them to get them to quit, because, they were just going to continue to fight and give themselves a chance. And, when they had the opportunity to make plays, they made it. Going back to the semifinals, Guy hit the shot from the corner, then hit all 3 free throws. Hunter gets a look to tie it up with 12 seconds left in the championship, and he hits it. If he misses that and they foul, maybe it's over. But, when Virginia had their chances, they took full advantage. And, again, credit to Texas Tech, because it looked like a couple times Virginia was going to pull away. They got it out to 10, 10-point lead twice. But Texas Tech just, Chris Beard used his timeouts well, and timely shots started to fall for the Red Raiders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How do you think Texas Tech got here? Was it the bracket that they were in? Because it seems like to me that they were just kind of a product of what the how the college tournament shakes out. Because go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say, I mean, defense is kind of their bread and butter. It's what they call for all year. I mean, when you look at their numbers, Jarrett Culver, he was their star. He'll be a lottery pick. 18.5 points per game, and then you have two guys who average 11, and then everybody else is in single digits. So I mean, it was really about the depth of this team, and just playing intense defense and never letting teams get comfortable on the offensive end. And if you don't see that defense all the time, it's tough to adjust to it, and you can see it on film, but a lot of times you only have one day to adjust to the tournament style bracket. It's really tough to figure out how you're going to beat that kind of defense. And they had great guys step up. Culver played well continuously. Moretti, Mooney stepped up huge in the semifinals. It was Francis and Edwards off the bench in the championship game. So yeah, it was really, truly a collective team effort when you look at it. They've got 6 guys who average 15 or more minutes. So they really play a lot of different guys, and that just allows them to play that intense style of defense where it's 30 seconds of hell for the offense to try to figure something out and get a bucket or get a good shot off.
Yeah, that's interesting. You make that point that it's like the defense, that these defensive teams are going to be very successful in this type of tournament, and And I just want to get your thoughts. What were your thoughts on the Final Four matchups, especially that Michigan State? I mean, I was surprised that Texas Tech pulled it off against Michigan State.
Yeah, I mean, Texas Tech just kind of jumped on Michigan State early with that defense, and held the lead throughout. And Michigan State went on a run, late in the second half, and they got it to within 2 with under 5 or so to go. And then, Texas Tech was impressive. I mean, for a team that's never been here, a coach that's never been on this stage, they responded well, and they went on a little, 7-0, 9-0 run to push that lead back out towards double digits and end up winning by 10. I think most people probably expected Michigan State to win that game. But sometimes when you're the new guy on the block, whether it's Texas Tech, really Virginia or Auburn, you don't have time to think about the moment and think about how big of a situation you're in, or that hey, you're maybe about to give up a big lead in the Final Four. You just kind of keep playing, and you just try to get another day playing with your teammates, playing for your coaches, and that just kind of seemed the way Texas Tech played. And Matt Mooney was huge for them. He hit 6 threes, he hit 22 of their 61 points. So certainly that was kind of the factor that was a difference, and he really played exceptional in the second half of that semifinal game.
Right. Do you think we're going to see Michigan State back in the Final Four? Probably not this year because they lost a lot of seniors, but do you think that they're going to have a pretty good, have some decent teams coming up in the future?
Yeah, no doubt. They are relatively young. They have a lot of juniors. The player of the year in the conference was Cassius Winston. He's a junior, but he's got a decision to make. He's had a great year. Is he going to go pro? They'll get Josh Langford back. Their other star guard who missed all but the first 10 games with an injury. They do lose Kenny Goins, who's kind of a great glue guy for them. But Tom Izzo's always going to have a chance to get to the Final Four. He's been to 7 or 8 of them since 2000. I expect him to get back. I think the bigger question almost with Michigan State and Izzo is, will he ever win another title? And it's not necessarily getting to the Final Four, but, he's now, like I said, 1 for 7 or 1 for 8, win championships and Final Four weekend. So I think that's kind of the bigger question with Michigan State is can they actually get back to the top of college basketball?
Right. Now I want to just kind of shift the focus because we talked about this offline that probably a lot of Auburn fans weren't paying attention to that Virginia national championship game. I just want to get your thoughts just about that game in particular. I know it kind of ended in a controversial way, which a lot of people on social media were talking about, that Auburn got robbed, and I can kind of see why people would say that and think that. But yeah, I just want to get your thoughts, particularly on that game, because yeah, that made a lot of headlines.
Yeah, no doubt. And first off, I would say, it was 100% a foul on the 3-point shot in the corner. I mean, shooter went up and the defender came and got under him, didn't give him a clean place to land, kind of got into his legs as he shot, and that's going to disrupt and affect, any shooter. So, that was 100% a foul. And then, again, credit to Guy for stepping up. 72,000 people in that arena, everyone watching you, and you step up and knock down all 3 free throws. I mean, that's almost a definition of clutch, especially after that 3 he hit the possession before. But I think a lot of people were upset about the missed double dribble call at midcourt, and that was a double dribble. But the 2 things I would say is, one, in the moment, I don't think anybody saw Jerome pick it up with 2 hands and think double dribble, double dribble, double dribble.
Right.
It wasn't until Sterator came on and said, well, this should have been a double dribble back here. So I think that was one thing. It kind of, certainly was in the flow. It could have looked like, the defender poked the ball away and not that Jerome hit it off his foot. I could see where an official would see that. But, also, and I know, many people have talked about this, Auburn had fouls to get, so they were fouled. They were trying to get Virginia a short clock to not have a lot of time to run a set to get a shot off. So, even as Jerome went to dribble that ball behind the back, I think it was Bryce Brown, kind of grabbed his jersey, so could that have been a foul? Sure. I think it goes 2 ways. I think, back to back in that moment in the final 10 seconds, obviously, those calls are going to get magnified. And if you're an Auburn fan, you certainly have a right to be upset. But, the shot in the corner was a foul. And,
right.
The double dribble was a missed call. I mean, that's what it is. That happens in the game. That's part of the, having officials. And so, it's tough, but I think, also, like I said, Virginia made the plays they needed to even give them, to be in that position to win that game.
Mm-hmm. It seems like the theme with Virginia, and it obviously played true last night, that they were a team that's ready for big moments. And it just didn't seem like Auburn was ready for that big moment.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, for them, adversity didn't really faze them, didn't bother them. When something went wrong, no one even kind of blinked. They just kind of stared right at it and attacked it. And, when you're the first number 1 seed to ever lose to a 16 seed, there's almost no bigger adversity on the basketball court than having to overcome that.
Right.
And they talk about that a lot, and how, maybe they don't even, get this chance at the national championship if they never lose that game, right? Because their mindset's different. The way that they bonded as a group, all that stuff can change a little bit. So, I think it's just a group who was on a mission, and you can call it fate or team of destiny or whatever you want to call it, but it just looked like a group of guys who had a goal, and it wasn't going to let anything, any amount of time on the clock, any foul, any missed call, nothing was going to, change their ability to get to the Final Four and hoist that national championship trophy.
I mean, this was a team on Friday, the first weekend of the tournament, that was down at halftime by Gardner-Webb.
Yeah. I mean, down 6 at the half, down 14 in the game, and and that was probably a little bit of a moment where you're so ready to get out and get that 16 game behind you that maybe you just get away from how you play.
Right.
But I mean, as soon as they settled down, I mean, they were who they are, and I thought what was interesting and maybe spoke to the level of the opponents is, especially in the Final Four games and a little bit in the Purdue game. They had 8-10 point leads in the last 4 or 5 minutes, and usually that's when Virginia closes it out and kind of coasts to a 15-17 point win in those situations. But both Auburn and last night Texas Tech, I mean, they came back. Auburn, it was Bryce Brown hitting some threes. For Texas Tech, it was Moretti hit a three. Obviously Edwards was hitting threes all game long. So guys just made play, and like in a boxing reference, right? I mean, to beat the guy, you're going to have to take his best punch. At some point, they're going to have a flurry. They're going to throw some haymakers. They're going to hit you in the face a few times. And, you're either going to, fall down and stay down, or you're going to get back up, and it's your turn to throw your flurry of haymakers. So, I think that's kind of the way it was with Virginia, and maybe it wasn't always a knockout shot, but they won on the scorecard, and that's all you need to be a winner.
Yeah. Yeah, well said, right there. And this, yeah, and I think this is probably the first time in a while that you've had a 1 seed win the whole overall thing, because it seems like 1 seeds recently have just exited out of the tournament left and right.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's not a huge surprise. We've talked about it, the past few weeks, how, it kind of seemed like there were 20 teams that could win it and everybody else was just kind of in the tournament. So, it's not incredibly crazy, but, certainly to see, some of the 1 seeds, like UNC and Duke, who you certainly expected to be here, not be here. And again, have Texas Tech and Auburn, 2 teams who've never been to a Final Four, have a chance to win a national championship, and both of them, come a couple points away from playing for one, or the other one, winning it. So, I think it just kind of speaks to just where college basketball is right now, where, it may be just a little bit more, and it could just be this year, but, the Power 5 conferences are still, the dominant teams and leagues in college basketball.
Right, absolutely. Now, I guess we're kind of at a moment here where it's like, where do we go from here? Like the season's over, and just looking back at 2018-19 season, what do you think it's gonna be defined as?
I think the Zion story, obviously, is the biggest thing, and that's what people are most tuned in for. I haven't seen ratings of the Final Four, and I wonder if they're a little bit down, just because Zion wasn't in there. So I think that's the biggest thing. But obviously, Virginia going from losing to the 16th seed to winning the national championship, that's incredible. And somebody on the broadcast said it last night. That's something that can never be done again, because we will never have our first 1 seed lose to a 16 seed. So, it's that 30 for 30 is coming out on ESPN. Right. It's just, it's crazy. It's really, if you're a fan of sports, of college basketball, just to think about, going from literally the bottom where you're like, you can't even get up in the morning, and you're like, how did this just happen? How did we make the worst headlines we could ever imagine, to, not wanting to go to sleep last night or tonight, just want to relish in the moment and realize you're a national champion. And so, I think those are the 2 big takeaways that people will mostly remember. And I would say in the tournament, I think a lot of people remember Charles Barkley's love for Auburn and the way he was on that roller coaster with that team. I know Barkley and Kenny don't always do the best job with their commentary of college basketball, and to their credit, to their fault, I guess. They don't watch a ton of it. They're NBA guys, but for him to kind of have that, be a part of the media in a different way as a little bit of a fan, but also an analyst, and just the way Charles is, I think it was fun for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was. CBS had like the Charles cam pretty much on him.
Yes, exactly.
So, so pretty much you feel like the Zion story is like one of what we'll remember about 2018-19 in college basketball.
Yeah, I think so. I think if in 10 years you say, or even 5 years, hey, what do you remember about the 2018-19 season? People might not remember what year it is, but, people will never forget, that year Zion dominated college basketball, right? Whether they're like, hey, that was my freshman year of college, or oh yeah, I remember that. I was living in North Carolina. Everyone was going nuts. Just kind of, wherever you were, you'll always remember, that year where you turned on the TV and you watched this animal and this guy who looked like he was a different species play on the same court with 9 other guys. And it was really, really special and incredible to watch. And, it's a bummer that he didn't get to go to the Final Four and that team didn't. But, that's what this tournament is. It's not necessarily always the most talented team. It's a lot of times just the team that's playing the best at that moment. And again, often it's a team that just has the older guys who can, have a moment like Virginia had and be down 4 points with 8 seconds left and know you're going to win that game.
Right. Oh my gosh. Just did a little volume adjustment there. I just want to, before we let you go, I just want to get into the Rick Barnes thing. He's recently, there's rumors out there that he was going to be the next coach at UCLA, and those aren't turned out to be true because it looks like he's staying at Tennessee. What are your thoughts on that? And do you feel like a program like UCLA that's had a long history with winning championships in college basketball, so now isn't really relevant in the national scene, and like the boosters and the alumni are going to push for them to be back to being a relevant team, and you have a guy like Rick Barnes at Tennessee, which isn't really which is more of a more of a football school and a women's basketball school. Yeah, can you see the appeal there, or and what do you think this says about Rick Barnes? That still he still wants to stick with Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, drawing him to UCLA was the money. I mean, it was up near $5 million a year with everything, that they were going to offer between the contract and bonuses and all that good stuff. So, I mean, I think that's obviously, when it's you're making, $3 million and all of a sudden there's an offer to get $5 million on the table. I mean, that's tough to say no to. And if you're UCLA, you're trying to land a big splash, a big name and a coach that's going to get your fan base excited, your alumni excited. And like you said, I mean, get back to relevance where, I mean, they really haven't. Last time I remember UCLA really being a team to worry about is when Florida was winning back-to-back championships and UCLA was in the Final Four with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Love.
Right.
Besides that, it really, I mean, that was 2008, 2009.
Yeah,
I mean, it's been a while. But I think the other thing, and kind of as I'm looking right now at some of the contract numbers, Tennessee, matched not the $5 million offer, but gave him more money, extended him through 2024. He's going to make about $100,000 more each year. So I mean, it's a good situation for him. It's a chance for him to, as an older coach, kind of settle down and be in one spot. And
it's not a lot of pressure too, being a basketball coach at Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's not, but I mean, the SEC, I mean, they're getting good.
Exactly.
I think we're a couple of years away from the SEC, continuously being one of the top teams in the country, or one of the top conferences in the country. And I think, again, it starts with great coaching hires. I'm totally blanking. Somebody in the SEC, Arkansas just hired, maybe the old Buffalo coach. So I mean, they're really improving, not only the level of play, but the level of coaching in that conference. So, I think it's a little bit of a challenge for Tennessee. I think it's probably a little less pressure, like you said, than going to UCLA. But UCLA is going to continue to try to go after some coaches, and we'll see where they end up. I just saw St. John's head coach step down, and people are talking about Bobby Hurley getting that job. So, we're getting to the point where some jobs will start to open up. Guys will either take jobs or split ways and get go a different way. So we'll see kind of where everything ends up. But for now, it seems that Barnes is going to stay at Tennessee, and UCLA is going to keep trying to find a big name to change the view of their program in 2020, I guess.
Mm-hmm. You just made me think of something because we're kind of going off script here, folks. But 2 questions come to my mind.
Yep.
First of all, who do you think, and you can, because this is kind of out of order, but who do you think is going to be that UCLA, who's going to fill that coaching void at UCLA? And then also, too, I know, and maybe this is a little bit throwing it out there because just where I'm sitting right now and a little bit of homer for this conference, but what everything that you just told me, and they're getting really competitive in basketball. Do you think the SEC could possibly be the replacement for the old Big East? I'm talking about the Big East when Syracuse was in there, or is that too much of a stretch?
No, I hadn't thought that, but I kind of like it, and I think with the way the SEC is in football and the way it attracts football players, I think it could be very similar with basketball. I mean, what star basketball player wouldn't love to go down to Georgia, to Auburn, to Kentucky, wherever it may be, and have great weather and have a fantastic experience with just everything from your sport to the social life to just having the community and alumni. I think that's a really big thing with the SEC is just the way the fans and the alumni love their team, and you're always going to have a big crowd pulling for you, rooting for you. I think the SEC is on the up and up. It's going to continue to get better, and the more coaches they get in there, just the better it's going to be. So we'll see where they end up with that. As far as the UCLA job, I'm not totally sure. I think they're going to still try to go after a big name. I mean, I think you could see UCLA go after Chris Beard, the Texas Tech coach, after what he just did, and offer him a lot more money than Texas Tech maybe could. And the other one that is kind of interesting, and I heard it a while ago, I haven't heard it since, is if Luke Walton gets fired or leaves the Lakers, he played for UCLA,
right?
He played for Lute Olson, and he played for national championship and Final Four. So, they could do that, and I think that would be a nice little splash. I think it would be good headlines. And I think, it's always good to have an alumni come back to their alma mater and coach and kind of bring back the relevance of that program.
It would probably be better for him. He'd probably be in a better place if he was a college coach versus an NBA coach.
Yeah. And it's also, we're going way off script here. It's also probably tough to be an NBA coach when LeBron's on your team and wants to make a lot of decisions. And he can get back to college, and it's almost like kind of that Golden State mentality where it's just a bunch of guys playing unselfish. Nobody really has egos. Nobody seems to have an agenda. It's just a bunch of good guys playing ball together.
Right. And it's like, and at the same time, I mean, his biggest hurdle is going to be recruiting. But the attractive to playing with Luke Walton is going to be like he can get you into the NBA.
Yeah, exactly. And he's been there. He's been a kid, who's come to UCLA and gone to the NBA and could show that success story. And, it helps the college kid when you can tell him, hey, I used to coach LeBron. I used to coach Lonzo. I used to coach Steph, KD, whoever it is. Just to have that pedigree. You saw it. With Duke and the one and done era. That really started to change when Coach K was working with these pro guys, and Kobe and LeBron and D Wade all had such great things to say about Coach K that now all of a sudden these high school kids are like, man, maybe I do want to go play for that guy. Maybe the one and done thing can work at Duke. So, we'll see where it is. Obviously, he'd have to lose his job with the Lakers first, but I think UCLA is going to continue to go after big names. I think every time you see the scroll, it's going to say UCLA is interviewing blank. I think it's going to be a name in the basketball world that, most casual basketball fans will know who it is.
Do you think that they're going to go after Coach Cal at all? because it seems like Coach Cal has done everything he could at Kentucky. And granted, his track record too, he'll like to flip and not be satisfied just coaching at one place.
Yeah, I mean, he signed that lifetime contract last week. So, in theory, you would think he's not going to go anywhere. But, he also signed that lifetime contract because, some other schools and even a couple of NBA organizations were interested. But, it's Coach Cal, and he's got a little bit of a slime side to him. So you can, you could see him finding a way out of that lifetime contract at some point. But I don't think it's going to be this year. I don't think it's going to be anytime too soon, maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Especially if the rules start to change and one and done isn't as much of a thing. It may be a little bit tougher for him. But, he's still always going to be able to show all the jerseys of guys he coached who are now in the NBA, and players are going to be interested in that. And, I would put money on Cal staying at Kentucky for the rest of his career with especially that lifetime contract. But, if I lost that money, I wouldn't be too surprised, but I'd be bummed I lost the money.
Yeah, you never know what attractive program is going to knock on his door.
Yeah, and I mean, it's tough to get a whole lot more attractive than Kentucky. But, I do still think there's a little bit of Coach Cal that wouldn't mind getting back in the NBA and showing he could do that after he wasn't that successful, the first time he went through it.
He always seems to me like if he wasn't a college coach, he'd probably be a mafia boss. He just has that look to him.
Yeah, I think him and Rick Pitino could.
Yeah, absolutely. Him and Rick Pitino. Oh my gosh. They would probably be like rival gangs. Then like they would team up, and then they'd be rival gangs again.
You just feel like you're watching The Sopranos.
Exactly. I can definitely, I could definitely see that going down because some of those guys just have that look.
Yeah, no doubt.
And especially the way he handles business and everything. So yeah, man, I had another thought, but now it just totally. Oh yeah. Okay, before I lose it, I just want to get your thoughts on the one and done situation since they're changing that rule. Do you think it's a good thing? Not so good thing? Where do you lie on the what's your opinion on this rule change?
Yeah, so nothing's been official to make it in writing and concrete, and they're going to get rid of it. But it's really starting to go that way. And again, I think one thing that a lot of people have a misconception of is they think it's the NCAA rule. It's an NBA rule right now. The NBA says you cannot come to our league straight out of high school.
Right.
You need to go to college. You can go play international if you choose to, or now they have the $125,000 a year in the G League that I don't think a lot of people will take, but it is an option. So. And I think the NBA is starting to see, when you see a guy like Zion, even RJ Barrett, a couple of these other freshmen, Kobe White from UNC, you look and you say, that guy can play. And maybe he won't be a starter from day one. And maybe in his first 20, 25 games, he won't get more than 5 or 10 minutes per game. But, I think at some point, you want to invest in that. And even if that kid, for his first year as a rookie, plays, 45 games, averages 8 minutes, 3 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist. That's still a year that kid had to develop in the NBA, to be around the NBA atmosphere, to play for a coach who's teaching them how they're going to play the game of basketball. I mean, it makes sense. In a way, it's almost like drafting a quarterback and having them sit for a year and just letting them learn everything that goes on. And so, that's where I think the one and done, really should reconsider. And, I don't think we should have the rule that it's, hey, you got to come to college for 2 years and then you can leave. I think you get rid of the one and done. If guys can go play right away, they go play, and guys who can't go to college. And maybe you go to college for 1 year and you ball out, you prove you can play, then go pro. But, guys are going to take years. We saw just yesterday, Trey Jones, a Duke point guard. He came in with that class and, 3 top 5 3 of the top 5 recruits, and he was number 19, and everyone thought these 4 guys are going to be one and done. Well, he's going to stay for another year. You know, he didn't get the development he wanted, and whether it was he wanted to play for a national championship or he just felt like I can continue to get better. You know, that's the kind of thing that's good for these guys. And I mean, there's a lot of players who people think are going to be one and done who stay 2, 3, 4 years in college and continue to get better.
Right, absolutely. And it's where college athletics is great, or just being in that college atmosphere. I mean, I might be showing my age, but it's like, you know, and I know that it's like, we see guys like Zion Williams, and obviously Zion Williams is going to be a one and done. But it's like you see those guys that have that physical specimen, like Trevor Lawrence in college football. And you're just like, man, like from a pro standpoint, because I think these media people are fixated on what happens from the pro standpoint. And you see a guy like that, and you're just like, man, that guy should be an NBA or an NFL jersey. But I think what we forget is too that it's like, yeah, there's also development with your game, and that you have that ability to get better in. But it's like also from a social standpoint, I don't think a lot of these guys are ready for that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad you said that social part, because I mean, you know, the personal maturation is huge when you're in college.
Right.
I mean, you know, anybody who's listening, think about when you went into college as a freshman and when you came out as a senior, or even by the end of your sophomore, you know, maybe through your junior year. I mean, you're in 2 years, a year and a half, you're a totally different person.
Exactly.
And I think that's a big thing, and you know, I think, you know, if they get rid of the one and done, you know, I think kind of the interview process is going to be a big part of it for NBA coaches and these players. You know, how mature is this kid? Does he understand what he's about to get into? You know, is he ready to be on a team for 2 or 3 years where he can't even go out legally with the team after the game and have a beer? You know, so I mean, it's all a little bit different. I do think they should get rid of it because, you know, I mean, there's always a chance of some freak injury and you never have your chance to get that money. But, you know, it also waters down college basketball. You know, it's hard to really, you know, get into college basketball when you don't know how long a guy's going to be there. And so I think it really helps both games if they get rid of it. Just let the players make their decisions and let the teams decide if they want to draft them or maybe, you know, this guy's just not ready to be in the NBA right now.
Right. Because it's like, also too, I mean, there's the money aspect. Like, we're entrusting you with over $1 million.
Right. Exactly.
And we don't want you to end up in another 30 for 30 where they talk about athletes that blow their money. Right.
And yeah, and sometimes being around a program, even if you are one and done, well, now all of a sudden you know guys who played in your program who used a certain agent, or your coach says, hey, this guy's a good agent. And now you're just going to be a little bit better connected, you know, within that world. And again, I think that's where, you know, the interview process becomes a big thing, you know, if they do opt to get rid of this one and done rule officially.
Right, absolutely. Well, Ned, unfortunately, I think this is the last time we're going to bother you for a while. Let you go back to being a lacrosse coach unless like some breaking thing happens. But always a pleasure having you on. Always love talking college ball with you, and I always think it's amazing how you can just come up with like the starting 5 off the top of your head.
No doubt. Well, as you know, I love college basketball more than most, and I appreciate you hopping on and letting me give my thoughts, you know, most weeks. And I do want to make the note, I was out of town last week. I didn't just skip because Duke lost, but you know, it was a little bit easier not to talk about the loss, you know, on the air.
Sure. No, you went on that trip early.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you got my number. If anything crazy happens, UCLA hires someone crazy, you know, I'll hop on. Love to talk with you. But if not, we'll hopefully reconvene next college basketball season. And I'll keep tuning in to all the other coverage you guys got with your baseball, college basketball, NFL stuff. You guys do a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, there's always that crazy thing that happens during the summer or something that comes out. So definitely want to have you back for if some college some coaching decisions come down.
Yep.
And or just to check up on what's happening overseas, because usually these teams play overseas during the summer.
No doubt. But enjoy it, and hope everyone listening enjoyed it and picked up a few helpful tidbits along the way.
I'm pretty sure they did. Well, thank you, Ned. Where can we find you on social media? I don't think the retweet game is going to be going strong recently, but still, where can we find you on social media in case we want to contact you?
Find me Twitter at the real Ned Kaish. I actually pumped out a handful of retweets yesterday. Was watching that game. People complaining about how slow it started. It's just kind of funny because, again, if you know college basketball, you know how it's going to go. And two teams playing for the national championship, those are usually the two best teams at that time in the country. So it was a heck of a game, and I hope people stayed up to watch it. If not, make sure you check out those highlights.
Yeah. You got the extended highlights on YouTube. So, well, cool. Well, thanks, Ned, for being on the show today.
No doubt.
Well, now this is the end of the show. And just want to thank Ned Kaish and Steve Choi. Man, Steve was right, too. This music makes you want to fall asleep. But to me, this is the music, the gift that gives, the gift that keeps on giving, because it brings back so much nostalgia and so many memories. This is a good choice by the people that are, by the masters or the people that are broadcasting between CBS Golf Channel, NBC Golf Channel, and all those guys to choose this song. This is a gift that keeps on giving, guys. I don't know. I'm just too hung up on this, music right now. But there's two things I want to get to. And first, I think I am going to stop playing the Masters music because it is making me wanting to fall asleep. Here at the wheel here. But Jim Nantz from Butler Cabin. Always like doing that impression. Hello, friends. Well, this is the part where we say goodbye, friends. And always, too, I love how Jim Nantz... I'm going to say this, too, before I turn this off. I love how Jim Nantz, on Saturday, sets up the stage. And I don't think they use this music, but they use probably a more intense, type of music to... choreograph the moment and the highlights that are going on. And I like how Jim Nantz always carries it into Sunday, and how you need to tune in on Sunday to see what happens. I always like how he does that. So anyways, time to turn off the Masters music. Like it, but it is making me fall asleep, like what Steve Choi said. And now we're going to get into some things that this is the great thing about taping a podcast that's based on current events. Sometimes those events change overnight. And I asked Ned about the UCLA job, and they did hire their man, and their guy's going to be Mick Cronin from Cincinnati. That is an interesting choice. I don't know a lot about Mick Cronin, to be honest with you, because Cincinnati is out of this market here, and but they've always been competitive in the American Conference, and obviously this is going to be a step up, and this is going to be a lot of pressure on Mick than he's ever had before in his college career. So that'll be an interesting choice going forward. His job is going to be bringing the Bruins back to relevancy, because, right now, the Pac-12 is an easy conference to win right now in college basketball. So he could be one of these. He could put UCLA back on the map when it comes to college basketball, just because of the competition. He's not coming into a tough conference, first of all, and there's no way to there's no way to sugarcoat it. I mean, I feel like if he gets his basketball program where Cincinnati's been in, because he came from the American Conference, and I feel like the American Conference is probably one of the most underrated conference is in college basketball, because there's a lot of great teams in there that are always under the radar. So I think I kind of think probably at maybe at first that the Pac-12 is going to be an easier conference to make a bigger splash in than the American Conference is right now. And I know I'm saying that. Whoa. I mean, you think about it. I mean, the only team that was ranked from the Pac-12 was Washington this year, and they're not historically. I mean, I'm not saying they're not great at basketball, but they're not one of those like teams that's always in the conversation. Even though they beat the Bulldogs, Mark Fox's second year. But anyways, good luck to Mark Cronin, and oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot this. And congratulations to we should have done this at the beginning of the show, but congratulations to the Virginia Cavaliers for winning the national championship. So a lot of congrats goes out to you guys winning the national championship. And speaking of the national championship, I have got the ratings here, because that's another thing in our conversation with Ned that we didn't talk about, because they weren't released, because I talked to Ned yesterday on a Tuesday, and this is being recorded on a Wednesday. And the ratings, man, the game itself was entertaining just in itself, but, and I guess maybe just because people were interested with the carryover of what happened at the Auburn game, was you wanted to see what kind of drama was going to happen in the national championship. But the ratings were 11.3. So that was a good that was a good number. Here in Atlanta, you had 87,000 homes watching it here in Atlanta, which doesn't surprise me. But the interesting thing about this was the top cities was Richmond, Virginia, was in at number 1, obviously because of because that's probably where a lot of alumni from UVA, that's probably where they get their jobs at. So obviously Richmond is in there at number 1. Norfolk, which I get it, that's in Virginia, but I was like, really, Norfolk, Virginia? I didn't know they had that big of an audience, but hey, Norfolk, Virginia, they came in second with the ratings. And then you had Louisville, I can kind of see that. Kansas City really, I guess there's a bunch of Jayhawk fans or K-State fans that are people that have gotten degrees from Texas Tech, and you're just like, Kansas City, why not? Patrick Mahomes is there, so yeah, why not? That seems like a city that's on the up and up to get jobs. So Kansas City came in at 21.1 with their ratings. Louisville was 23.3, and I'm trying to see. Richmond was 31.3 with their ratings. So you got Richmond, Norfolk, Louisville, Kansas City. So, and Atlanta was ranked 40th with the cities. So, but that's probably going to be a little bit different once the tournament comes here. So the countdown is on for the national tournament to come to the ATL. And I know it's going to be just as great as it was in 2013. So that's the next big event, guys, on the sports calendar, coming to Mercedes-Benz outside of Falcon Games, Corky Kell. If you haven't checked out Corky Kell, got to check out Corky Kell, especially if I think they're gonna have it this year in Mercedes-Benz. But that's where you're going to see a lot more D1 prospects. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent here, but thanks for checking us out today. Hopefully you made it through your travels. I'm assuming you're listening to us on your travels or however you listen to podcasts. I want to know how you listen to podcasts. Put that, like, what do you do when you're listening to podcasts? Are you cooking, working out? Because I only listen to podcasts traveling. So put that in the comment section. I'm really curious, guys. When do you listen to podcasts? When do you specifically listen to my podcast? Like, subscribe, and comment. Because we want to hear from you. We want to hear what your thoughts on the national championship, my Masters music, the Masters, Tiger Woods, the Atlanta Braves, or if you want to talk about Georgia football, this is the place. Put that in the comment section. Or Jeff Collins making a lot of splashes. Tech is finally invested into social media, which we haven't seen this from the flats recently for a tech school. I'll just say that. But put that in the comment section. Looking forward to doing Football Friday for you guys. And with that being said, we are at Hump Day. So, with that, this is the 48th edition of the ATL Boxscore podcast. Oh my gosh, we're getting to 50 soon. So episode 48 is out.